And welcome to our in-depth daily space weather video. I'm your host, Dan, aka Smash-O-Mash. Pardon the abrupt ending on yesterday's space weather video. Our YouTube exclusive featured a weird, sudden ending. I'm not exactly sure what happened. Some kind of technical difficulties occurred. We are expecting a coronal hole high-speed stream mid-morning on Universal Time. That is, mid-morning Universal Time on April 29th, Friday. At the moment, this is the past 4 hours of magnetohydrodynamic pressure. In space, yes, space, surrounding Earth to about 12 Earth diameters. Things are pretty calm at the moment. We'll get into more in-depth stuff looking at coronal holes and solar flares and sunspots and more. Here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. Geospace Delta V ground magnetic perturbations. It's also the last 4 hours. We show it daily, so people have an idea of what's going on magnetically speaking. A lot of people are frightened of the magnetosphere. However, you shouldn't be. It, like the sun, isn't going to kill you. KP index, a measurement of global geomagnetism, here at 1. Geomagnetic calm conditions, and let's go to the real-time solar wind to see what's up. And we see a much more dense solar wind today than we saw yesterday. Yesterday it was only about 2 protons per cubic centimeter. Today the solar wind density about 7 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed at about 428 kilometers per second. Fairly unremarkable data there. And let's take a look at the heliospheric current sheet. We have seen a bunch of activity rise in the southeast. The southeastern limb of the sun there, featuring sunspot 3000, yes. Anyway, that data is about 1 hour and 37 minutes old when we recorded the video. Keep in mind the magnetic environment can change with basically no warning. Here's the GOES magnetometer readings over the past 3 days. The GOES 16 and GOES 17. Their magnetometers located at a geosynchronous near equatorial orbit. If you want to read more about the GOES magnetometers, head to the page here and click Details. You can read all about the GOES magnetometers. Here's our line of sight ecliptic plane field plot. You can see Earth is rather solidly in a south pole current sheet. There is some evidence of a north pole current sheet on its way. You can see a little bit of green coming up over here. We'll have to keep an eye on that. And when I say eye on, well, pardon the pun. Next, line of sight coronal hole plot. And this high-speed coronal hole wind stream that we're expecting on Friday is from this large, rather well-defined trans-equatorial south pole coronal hole. There are protons spewing out of that, and we're expecting them in about 2 days. So here's an SDO view, 193 angstroms, part of the extreme ultraviolet spectrum. And there you can see a great view of those trans-equatorial South Pole-oriented coronal holes, just rotating past the direct Earth-facing zone. Let's move on to sunspots. So we've got sunspot 3000, sunspot 3001, and sunspot 2999 down there in the southeastern limb. Interesting feature here is that we've got these sunspots at vastly different latitudes. And we've been seeing that go on and on throughout this solar cycle. Typically, folks, you see sunspots at higher latitudes when the cycle begins, and then only around the equatorial regions when sunspot cycles end. At the moment, we're seeing sunspots at quite different latitudes here. You can see 29, 95, and 96 are at a very different latitude there. Likelihood of major flares kind of high here as sunspot 29, 93, and 94 approach the limb. Solar flares more likely to occur at the limb than while directly facing Earth. It all has to do with the angular aspects of the way photons are emitted from certain materials, such as lattice structures versus gaseous plasmas. Does a lattice structure also explain why sunspots are dark? Let us know in the comments what you think. Next, we'll take a gander at the closest star here in 1700 angstroms. A great wavelength to view well-defined sunspots from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. And most of these sunspot groups have remained largely stable. Sunspot 3000 has grown a little bit here. See a little bit of growth in Sunspot 3000. And those are all fairly simple sunspots there, not particularly magnetically complex. Looks like some new activity rising up here as well in the northwestern limb. I mean the northeastern limb. And again, to reiterate, the likelihood of solar flares goes up as these massive sunspots approach the limb. Did you know we make all kinds of content besides space weather videos on YouTube? Yeah, there's all kinds of playlists. There are music videos. There are driving, riding, and pro tips videos. Smashomash.org presents the Sun cosmology segments, over 200 of those. So check out our playlists. Thanks to everybody who has. Tell your friends and foes about the channel. We've been slacking on meteorology segments on YouTube because we've been making those BitChute exclusives. So check us out over there for our meteorology segments. bitchute.com/smashomash, where you're still allowed to say basically anything you want. So welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Congratulations on realizing our channel exists. Please give Smash staff a raise by becoming a paid member of the Smash team or picking up some merch. You can find links to that on the homepage. Right there is the Smash-O merch link. Today's featured product is Mensa. Since it's up to you to make Earth not suck again, in your little zone of sovereignty, make Earth not suck again. It's up to you, not heaving bureaucracies that can't even get out of their own way or do their own job. It's up to you to make Earth not suck again, so Mensa. Pick up something with our colorful design, whether it's a throw pillow or a shirt or a hoodie, perhaps a set of leggings. The print quality is spectacular. You can even get a greeting card if you like, advising people to make Earth not suck again. We are also on Twitter. Every time we nearly reach 250 followers, we mysteriously lose followers. It's quite interesting. And yeah, Twitter, really in the news lately. If you don't have an account, go get an account. And no, I don't follow Elon Musk. I see his tweets constantly regardless. I'm totally uninterested in following Elon Musk. Next, we are also on Twitch. We already did one live stream. By the time we recorded this video, by the time you see it, we would have streamed a second one. Our bonus features segment has been a Twitch exclusive now for a while. And here's a little teaser on the smashomash.com/smash team site. Those daily disaster reports are for gold and silver members only, so join up at the gold or silver membership for some additional content. Next, let's move on to the Proton Flux, which doesn't see anything besides flatlining here over the past 3 days. And we saw only minor C-class flares over the past 24 hours, so solar flares. Like we said yesterday, don't get flares and coronal mass ejections confused. Solar flares are light in the X-ray spectrum, electromagnetic radiation, and coronal mass ejections are diffuse gas, protons, hydrogen nuclei, completely different. One is matter, one is light. And let's move on to some more SDO browse data here. 94 angstroms, a great wavelength through which to view solar flares. And you can see some C-class intensifications there. I'm not going to try to break those down. At least one of them came from sunspot 2994. Again, we may see some new active regions rising, maybe some new sunspots perhaps in the northeastern limb up here. Let's blast through even more data. We like to show a star chart daily to keep people oriented. If you're up before dawn, you may see a great pile up here. Jupiter, Venus, and the Moon, all very close to each other, and the ecliptic. Also Mars and Saturn there showing up. So spectacular morning skies continue here, and they will for a while. So here's your solar system forecast. All the planets are moving to one side of the solar system here. Let's advance this 1 week. Here's where things will be in a week on May 4th. A new moon coming up in a couple of days. Last but not least, let's show some coronal mass ejections. We've got additional ones. It's a great light show here. So here's the view from Stereo A on the left and the Soho-Lascaux C3 on the right. They're located at L5. The gravitational equilibrium point there, Lagrange 0.5, Lagrangian 0.1, is the Soho-Lascaux C3 here on the right. So from here, Earth would be behind you. From here, Earth would be off to your right. These coronal mass ejections are not earthly directed. We are expecting to see a coronal mass ejection coming from these filaments. So at any moment, you could see that happen. They could be accompanied by solar flares from sunspot 2993 and 2994 as they approach the limb. We actually see perhaps some pre-flaring activity happening right here already. Again, those coronal mass ejections, not directed toward Earth. And the largest one here you can see on the far side of the sun, well off to the north, also showing up here on the Soho-Lascaux C3 to the northeast of the Earth line. And that's where we'll close out today's in-depth daily space weather video. Thanks for tuning in. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists. Press like, press subscribe, visit our links. We'll see you soon at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. May that solar wind be at your back.